How many times as a kid were you sitting on one of your grandparents' knees hearing stories about the old days? I find those stories riveting. And if you come over to yourstorypodcast.com, where I do my online chat show, you can hear people talk about their lives, like Colin, for argument's sake, where he was talking about growing up in London during the Blitz. There is an intimacy about it that I think goes way beyond the written word. It's far more intimate because they're talking about things that they lived through. And while they're talking, they're reliving those moments in their mind. And I think that that often gets transferred across to the listener. The thing with audio also is it's often the precursor to text. Most of the time, you'll slap a recorder in front of somebody and record stories and then maybe write it out. By doing it a little bit more officially, like we're talking about here, we can sit and consciously record and edit and tidy it up so that it's a listening pleasure. But then that can be transcribed and used to go into some form of text, maybe publishing a book even. And because it's audio, it's like listening to radio. It's something that you can do anywhere you want to. You can do it while you're exercising and while you're doing the gardening. It can be while you're preparing dinner that night. You can be listening to somebody in your life who has some amazing stories to tell. Far more convenient than reading a book. Far more convenient than watching video where you've got to be staring at a screen somewhere. What I don't think a lot of people realise also is that audio has the ability to start almost instantly. All you need is a recorder and some way of getting the information into that recorder through a microphone. So it's a very quick and easy way of getting started. And once the unfamiliarity of having a microphone and having to speak into something is past, it just becomes a conversation. Just becomes a situation where you're talking about your life and the things that you went through. I've heard it said recently that probably only 7% of a conversation is about the words, about the actual information that's coming across. Audio can get a lot more across in a message because you're listening to the nuances of their voice, the way they stammer, the way they pause, the way they choke up over a particular subject. How many times have you listened to somebody on the phone and realised that something was wrong, even though they never once said that there was anything wrong? We have this extraordinary ability to understand what's going on in the background just because of the inflection in somebody's voice. Video and images would have a great impact also, but there's a huge amount of work in that. With audio, we can get there very, very quickly. With just a small amount of effort, we can get deep inside a person. And I think for some people, that's intimidating. I think some people will actually pull away from this very idea because they realise that they're revealing themselves maybe a little bit more than they want to, and by writing text only, they can edit themselves so strictly that they're not revealing maybe their soft underbelly and not threatening certain aspects of their life that they may not want to reveal to everybody. I would caution against that because even though you might be somewhat fearful of sharing some things, I think that sharing and revealing the soft parts of you has a more profound effect on those who care than any risk that could possibly play out. I've seen tears well up in people's eyes when they're explaining stories, and the quaver in their voice says more about the affection that they could never express than if they wrote that level of affection in text. For all these reasons, when I started Your Story, I made the conscious decision that I wasn't going to do what most podcasters do out there, which is have Skype conversations. In the podcasting world, it's incredibly popular because so many people are tech savvy. What they do is they sit down and have conversations around the world with all sorts of very interesting people over Skype. And that's all well and good. But I decided right from the very beginning that I wanted to get into the personalities of people. So I decided that unless I was physically in the same space with the person, I wasn't going to record them. And I have found that I think that that works profoundly because I'm sitting there with them, looking in their eyes, virtually slapping them on the back, having a wonderful time, having a glass of wine or a beer or a coffee with them, and we're actually communing and sharing the same space together. There is something in that that is quite profound, and doing it distantly does not work as well as being in the actual space with them. I think that brings people out in a more natural way and into the recorder in ways that just aren't possible using other systems. So not only is recording audio profound, but actually being with somebody in the space when recording the audio, I think, has a huge effect. What it comes down to, I suppose, when I actually stop and think it all the way through, I'm going to paraphrase from somebody, it's a conversation, stupid. That's all it is. It's a conversation. It's a couple of people sitting around having a yarn. And even if it's not two people, even if it's not just one person talking into a microphone, it is still that person telling a story to an imagined person on the other side of the microphone. Right now I'm speaking to you. I have no idea where you are. I have no idea what you're doing. I don't know anything about you, but I'm talking to you. I'm talking specifically to you. And that's all you have to do if you're recording their own story. And if you're recording your own story, you can imagine that you're talking to a grandchild or to that unborn child or to a parent that you never knew. You can imagine it and then have that intimate conversation. And it is wonderful to have somebody sitting across the table and asking you engaging questions, but it's not always possible. And like I'm doing right now, I'm talking to you, and if you're recording yourself, you can talk to people who you wish to express yourself to. It's a conversation. And we as humans are so brilliant at doing conversations.